In this video, I do my best to try to answer a question from a massage therapist who wasn't very nice about why I think treatments that focus on rewiring the nervous system, firing patterns to get rid of pain, are dangerous and not an actual treatment. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Matt Maggio, and I am a non-surgical expert in chronic pain treatment. My focus is on finding and fixing nerves that become stuck to muscles with a glue-like substance called adhesion, also known as scar tissue, and then reducing inflammation from chronic pain naturally without the use of medications or injections. This leads to a big increase in flexibility, functioning, and long-lasting pain relief. I'm also the creator of the Peak Method, where we teach massage therapists a new treatment system that eliminates the frustrations of inconsistent results and produces long-lasting pain relief for their clients, all while working 50% less. All right, let's get into it. I got a question, came to me via email the other day from someone certified, put it in quotes, in some nonsense system that had a bunch of fancy words to describe unburdening. Yeah, unburdening the nervous system and some type of reflex in the name. I don't remember what it was. It was something blah, 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 blah. The question was, I saw a video you made about how doing neuromuscular based treatments is dangerous and not even a real treatment. I can't believe that someone who claims to teach other providers can be so wrong on this topic and choose to make ignorant statements. I feel bad for your clients. Oof, that's harsh. Because your lack of knowledge on the amazing powers of these treatments, these amazing power these treatments have is keeping them from getting out of pain quickly and for good. I guess you just want to make sure they keep coming back so you can steal their money. I would highly suggest you look into all the research that has been done and not speak on something that you have zero knowledge of. That wasn't very nice. This one was actually kind of surprising too, because it came from someone from Canada, and usually Canadians are really nice. They're some of the nicest, sweetest people in the world. When I'm recording this the day after Team USA hockey just won the gold medal in both women's and men's hockey. And it's funny because in America, like hockey's like our fourth or fifth best sport. In Canada, all they got is hockey. So he's probably just having a bad day because his whole world was crushed because, Team USA dominated. But I digress. Let's get into the video. So just a couple basic premises and concepts that I want to make clear as we go. First off, what is treatment? Everyone's all over the place with treatment. What I define treatment as is removing a pathology that is causing issues. I believe in the musculoskeletal system, there's only 7 potential problems that can cause an issue. It's going to be a bone problem, a cartilage problem, a disc problem, a ligament problem, a nerve problem, soft tissue problem, and a tendon problem. That's it. That's all we're ever going to see. And it has to stay in that context as well. What must treatment be? And this is not from me. This is actually from the FDA here in America, how they determine if like a drug or a treatment is worth it. First, it must be safe. Then it needs to be effective. And lastly, it needs to be durable or long lasting. If it doesn't fit all that criteria, it is not approved. It is not considered a treatment. Next, call this out. I didn't come up with this idea. This was talking by my mentor like 15 years ago. We talked about there's an order of operations in a treatment process. When someone comes in, they're in pain, you're trying to fix them with a conservative type of approach, which I think is the best and safest way to do that. Keep them away from pain pills, injections, and surgeries and a bunch of nonsense. This is when we're going to do a conservative-based approach to a musculoskeletal injury that has one of those 7 pathologies in there that I mentioned before. First, we need to restore range of motion. Range of motion gets limited over time as injuries happen, as overuse happens. I talk about this all the time. It's an accumulation of this stuff called scar tissue, or adhesion gets inside the muscles, the fascia, the nerves, the ligaments, makes everything less flexible, and then makes it weak. So first, we got to restore the range of motion by using a manual-based hands-on treatment. Hate to break this to you, and I hate to break this to so many other manual therapists out there. We are manual therapists. The name itself means it. Use your damn hands. You can't cup your way out of it. You can't stretch your way out of it. You can't corrective exercise your way out of it. You got to get in there with your hands, use your brain, break the tissue down, get things functioning, moving, doing better. Once you do that, you need to balance strength. Because like I said before, when you have adhesion, first, it causes decreased flexibility, but also causes weakness. So we get the range of motion back by getting rid of the adhesion, but we need to build that back up. This is where like corrective, isolated types of exercises come in. Then we need to increase strength once we get the imbalances in a good place, where those weaknesses where we need to increase like overall strength. I do this a lot with like global movements and more multi-joint movements like deadlifts, carries, lunges, things like that to build back up the overall strength. And then lastly, you might need to reprogram the nervous system, but only if it's needed. Most of the time you don't need to. And this is where the neuromuscular people begin. They think it's a wiring problem with the brain. They think that something isn't firing correctly. They'll be like, oh, the traps are inhibited or the glutes are inhibited or that muscle isn't firing. And they're just like, we need to get it to turn back on. They think it's a wiring problem with the brain, but it's not. And when you actually look at a lot of that research, it was done in people that already had like neurological issues, like people with like cerebral palsy and other types of things where it's a different type of presentation. But in a normal population, I've heard words like glute amnesia. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, oh, your glutes just got amnesia. No, they're not firing for a reason because there's a dysfunction somewhere. So if you just get it turned back on without really addressing the problem, you're going to have issues. So why are these types of treatment dangerous? Yeah, they are dangerous. And it's not just that I think this. This isn't like my opinion or my belief. This is just facts as we go. And sometimes facts don't like the truth. It hurts people's feelings. And you get mean emails like I got from this Canadian. What a jerk. It wasn't nice, but it happens. First, talk about this all the time. Understanding the why before starting treatment. A lot of people are like, oh, it's tight. It's weak. It's inhibited. It has amnesia. I don't know. It's inflamed. It has something. And then you just start with a jump right into a treatment. But I always say, why is it tight? Why is it weak? Why is it inflamed? Imagine if you took your car to the mechanic and you're like, hey, it's making this weird noise. He's like, okay, cool. Just starts banging on something. You're like, hey, dude, what are you doing? You'd ask him to run some tests, run some diagnostics, figure out what's going on. Same thing with the human body. Like if you just jump right in, you're like, yeah, it's tight. Let's stretch it. It's weak. Let's do an exercise. It's sore. Let's jam an elbow in there. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. Figure out the why first. Next is the idea versus symptoms versus function. Symptoms, I always say, they're like the smoke, but they're not the fire. They let us know there's a problem. And there's one faction of manual therapists that are like, oh, symptoms don't matter at all. The other one's like, only symptoms matter. It's somewhere in the middle. But I always say, unless the treatment is improving function, then it's not actually doing anything long lasting. And a lot of these treatments, they do get rid of symptoms, but they're not improving function, which in turn, actually, that makes them dangerous and doesn't make them very durable as we go. Next is this idea of protective tension. So the body has like a hierarchy of needs and things that it needs to protect as it goes through. And its most important thing is the nervous system. If the nervous system doesn't work correctly, you don't work correctly. So a lot of what I see is a lot of what's called nerve entrapments throughout the track of where it goes from the spinal nerves all the way out to the tips of the periphery. And what happens is when nerve entrapments occur, muscles around there tighten up to protect that area, unloads it. So someone might have like a shoulder rolled forward. Their glute might be shut off because they actually have an underlying sciatic nerve problem, or they might have like a degenerative component in the discs or the joints or something like that. So the area tightens up to protect. The same thing when you sprain your ankle, your body knows to limp. It does the same thing. So if you're just unloading that protective tension and you don't fix anything, you're actually exposing it. And then you create what's called a reflexive change. And this is what these types of treatments do. When they say, BS claims of like, oh, I can fix it in 2 minutes. I can undo 40 years of chronic pain in 2 minutes over 3 treatments. Get the hell out of here. You're full of it. And the client will do anything because they're desperate, because they're in chronic pain. They just want to get out of it. And you're like, oh, I'm just magically fixing it. Here's what you did. So inside the brain, inside the spinal cord, there's this pathway called the lateral spinal thalamic tract. It senses vibration. It senses movement. Anytime that and it senses pain, and they all travel up that pathway together. Anytime you do one of these treatments, you basically stimulate some mechanoreceptors. It blocks some pain in the spinal cord, gets those mechanoreceptors firing, and you temporarily feel better. But you didn't fix anything. Any treatment that only improves symptoms but not function is dangerous. Same thing I talk about with like cortisone shots and things like that too. They're bad. They're bad news because you haven't got to the why. You have no idea what's going on. You're just trying to put symptoms out, and you're exposing that client to a lot of problems because that tightness is there for a reason. All right, here's the dude. His name is 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠. He's like the godfather of the neuromuscular stuff. And he says in his own research, he says, respecting the approach of motor learning, any dysfunction in the periphery should be normalized first. What's he saying? Yeah, you do need to motor learn, but hey, you got to clean up the garbage that's going on somewhere else, going on further down the chain. This isn't a brain problem. The brain didn't just wake up and like, hey, you know what? I'm going to shut these glutes off today and see what happens. No, it's happening because other things are happening along the chain. So What do I treat? What do I see? Nerve entrapments. It's all I see. It's all I treat. Why do they happen in the first place? I talked about this. So over time, bad posture, stress, life, everything, maybe some injuries, muscles get overworked, develop this stuff called adhesion. Our scar tissue gets inside the muscle, starts to spread out. Over time, it eventually gets stuck to the nerves. Nerves are built with about 15% of extra slack to keep them healthy. Then it gets stuck to the nerve with the adhesion. That's when problems start to happen. You get some numbness, some aching, some burning, some tension, biomechanical distortions, all sorts of things, postural distortions in there as well. And then you get protective tension. Things tighten up to take the pressure off of the nerve. Technically, I do treat the nervous system. I just don't treat it the way that these people treat it, because those ways are just playing tricks on the system and they're not actually fixing anything. I start out in the periphery, so I work further down. So say I'm working like an upper extremity thing and I'm working like the radial nerve. I'll start all the way down the wrist, work my way up the arm, into the biceps, into the subscap, all the way up to the spinal nerve. I'm not rewiring the pattern. I'm restoring it. I'm freeing up that nerve so things can click back on and do what they're supposed to do, so they can be unburdened of the nerve entrapment. My treatment process, like I said, I start distal, and then I work my way up to the spinal nerve. Same thing in the lower extremities as well. Free it all up, get things functioning, sliding, moving better. It's going to allow for a longer lasting treatment. Because like I said, treatment needs to be safe, effective, durable. Now, are the neuromuscular treatments safe? I don't, like, in the short term, they're not helping you. But what's happening with these things is you're unloading that protective tension. And maybe the client has like an underlying disc issue or a nerve entrapment or a cartilage tear or something, and everything's tightened up around that. You do these tricks and you get things to relax. That client's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And then they go to the gym and they try to squat a house and then they blow out their back. They're like, what happened? I'm like, it's in there for a reason. It's trying to tell you something. The pain is there to tell you something. If you only get rid of the pain and you don't fix anything, you're setting that client up for a lot of problems. And this nonsense that you're going to fix like 40 years of chronic pain with like 5 minutes of two treatments, like, stop, stop. If that was the case, and I say these people all the time, I'm like, how are you not like $1 trillion industry? I mean, we spend in the US alone, we spend like $50 billion on chronic pain. You think if we were just simply doing these things that these people, it wouldn't take off? No, you're selling nonsense. You're a modern day snake oil salesman. And that's why I rub this person the wrong way, because I'm calling them out on their nonsense. Don't be one of those providers. That's all I got. Come on, Canadians, try to be a little bit nicer. That wasn't nice. I don't think my response was that mean back. I tried to be, professional and, show them some love. Hey, if you got any insights, share them in the comment section. I try my best to engage and share information with other people. Hey, if you know other providers out there that want to do some good work, share my stuff with them, spread the love, share the knowledge. At the end of the day, I just want this care to get to more people so that they don't get bamboozled by these other crazy providers. And lastly, if you like what I'm saying, you like the message I'm putting out, you can go download our free training modules, links to that wherever you're consuming this. We take you through an entire system. I take you through the shoulder, how to assess it, how to evaluate it, how to palpate it, how to treat it. We even throw in free continuing education credits as well to try to entice you to want to take those trainings. All the links to do that wherever you're consuming the video. I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.